Hello there. This is some idiot who paints. I've started this channel not because I'm some great painter, great artist, great hobbyer, anything like that. It's more just to prove a point and to add a little extra to a hobby that I do really love. And I think this is for people that are like me, because I started hobbying Warhammer, and this is mostly what this is going to be about, is me hobbying. And I see all these fantastic artists. Like, if you want to see a great artist, go see Vince Venturella, or one of the other 100 channels that are absolutely amazing. And they do fantastic art. And I saw these guys and how well they did it. And I know when I started out, I was not at that level, and it was a little frustrating at times. I'm still not at that level. I'm not even close to that level. I'm just your average guy. And I think that's what I wanted out of this. I'm not a professional hobbyist. This isn't how I make my living. I'm not a professional YouTuber. You're not going to see anything professional here. You're going to see basic paint setups. Granted, these aren't my nice brushes, but even my nice brushes aren't nice. Everything I have for brush-wise and equipment-wise is probably a maximum of $30 on Amazon. Right? I mean, the average person, that's what they're going to have. I also don't have a professional setup. I'm recording on the microphone I use when I'm playing video games. I've got a little $30 ring light. That's not actually a ring light. It's one of these fancy-dancy magnifying lights. It's actually very new. I'll explain that when I get into what we're doing today. I have a wet palette. Also $22 on Amazon, so. My camera is just a webcam camera. I'm not a YouTuber. And that's not my career. I'm nothing like that, so don't expect to find anything majorly professional here. What I am is a guy who likes a hobby and just wants to share that, and hopefully share it in such a way that other people new to the hobby aren't as intimidated by it. You know what I mean? You're probably going to see me hobby and hear me talk and rant and go through a couple stories. I got a certain project in mind today that I'm going to start. But to kick us off and launch this whole thing, I just want to show you a couple things, because I started this hobby when I moved here. I'm Canadian. I can tell you what province, but I've moved provinces 4 times for work. And every time I go, I pick up a new nerd hobby. When I lived in my home province and I went to university, I picked up D&D. And my God, that was the cheapest hobby I was into, and it's an unfortunate one that I've fallen off with D&D. And then I moved to the province where I lived the longest. I was there for 6 years working. And I picked up Magic the Gathering, Cardboard Crack. It was great. About 3 years ago, I moved to where I am now, and I thought at the time there was a big scene down here, at least I thought there was, and there might still be. I picked up Warhammer. And when I picked up Warhammer, I figured what I was going to like out of Warhammer was the Warhammer part of Warhammer. Playing the tactical role-playing game. And that wasn't the case I mean, I still like it. I do enjoy it. I have 2,000 points of Thousand Suns. I just show that there. Yeah, both those shells are 2,000 points of Thousand Suns. Warhammer is still my bread and butter. I do like to play it. But what shocked me, and it was because it was something I'd never really done before, it was that I didn't think I would like, because I've never been an artistic person, was the painting and the model building and the hobbying. And it's really become a great de-stressing hobby for me. I've really come to love it. And it's come to be my favorite part of the hobby. And that's kind of what I want to share. And I started out at this, and I don't want to say I was awful, but I'm a lot better now. I started out with Thousand Suns, which was a mistake. I'm never saying don't choose the faction you want at the start, but I looked at those Rubric Marines, I said, man, those look so cool. Those will be so fun to paint. They were not. They were not fun to paint. There's a reason it took me so long to get the magnifying light, because I got so used to painting Rubric Marines that everything became easy. But I started out, and this is where I started. I don't know how well he's going to focus up here. I might try and move it a little bit. Limitations of a cheap setup. I started out... Oh, actually, maybe. Maybe I might have an idea. Evil laughter. Oh, hey, that actually looks really nice. I started out with these guys. And I don't know if you can see. But he doesn't look bad. He's passable. But he is far from great. There's a lot of overpainting. Granted, they're actually still technically not finished. I've got a lot of detail work left to do, which we'll be working on throughout the series. But there's a lot of overpainting. There's a lot of... I did not adhere to the principle of too thin coats when I was doing these guys. I thought, well, they're so hard to paint that what if I just put on one thick coat? And that doesn't really work. Right? So, this is where I started. And like I said, it's not the worst. But there was a lot of room to grow. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I'm no Vince Venturella. Not even close. But I have gotten a lot better. So this guy here is from my last batch of Rubric Marines. And I think that these guys... Whoop, there we go. Well, there we go. We're gonna trying to see this in the camera. I was like, there we go. I think that these guys are 100 times better than what I did originally. Again, these guys still aren't finished, but the paint is a lot cleaner. The job itself is just a lot tidier. I'm not quite a fan of the gold, but that's because I actually really like the Vallejo gold. Unfortunately, trying to get the Vallejo gold is like trying to get a signed letter from God. So, I don't know if this guy will show up any better here now. Oh yeah, a little bit. So, I came a long way. And as I hobbied away, I got better at my rubrics. This guy here was really the big breaker for me. I bought Magnus because he is the centerpiece to the Thousand Suns. And I did not know I was going to be able to do him. But with just some basic techniques, I think I made a pretty good Magnus. Right? I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. He's also not quite finished. I still got to do some work on his tabard. But I have a bad habit of getting something almost done and then moving on to the next thing. But, you know, I've done a decent amount of work with him. I'm just going to turn this light on. Oh, yeah, here we go. I've done a decent amount of work with Magnus, making him just a bit of a personal favorite of mine. Right? But the big deal with him is not how good he looks or how good he doesn't look. It's that for me, he was a big project and something I did not think confidently that I could do. So, I undertook him, did him. He was a big confidence booster for me. As times have gone on, I've gotten a bit more creative. These are actually my partners. They're Necrons. And like I said, I've gotten a little bit more confident with how I do things. So instead of just doing regular Necrons, because my girlfriend actually didn't like the original color scheme, I made a custom color. This blue is made by mixing Stormhost Silver and McCrag Blue contrast paint. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I wish that would focus. We're going to get there in later videos. We're going to get cameras that focus. I swear. But, McCrag Blue contrast paint. Whoop. Stormhost Silver. We're coming back. There we go. Right. We made a custom color for Necron Dynasty. We got a sub-army of Votan that I'm working on. Like I said, none of them I don't think are the world's greatest paint jobs. But I think they're all pretty decent. At least except for my original Rubric Marines. Other than them, they're all pretty decent. And like I said, I've come a long way. So I've gotten to the point where I've gotten to a little bit of kit bashing and a little bit of custom color mixing. Yeah. At the end of the day, this has been a really, really pleasant hobby for me. And now I'm finally at a point where I don't feel bad about what I make. And I'm at a point where I think I'm comfortable enough with it that I'm willing to fail too. I'm willing to be like, yeah, that was a fuck up. Oh well, c'est la vie. Which I think earlier on, when you start out this, you're a lot less willing to fail. So, I wanted to, kind of add to that hobby with this little side hobby. Plus, I like to do things with my hobby. And I'm running out of YouTube videos to watch, because when I'm hobbying, I get distracted and my YouTube algorithm gets all janked up. But, what we're going to be doing here today is that I have 20 Rubric Marines on that shelf. And I need more. I need more Rubric. The issue is that I have 20 Rubric Marines are often desired in squads of 5. I don't always play the game and I don't build my army for an optimalist all the time. But I do like to have options. And I have lots of Rubric Marine bits left. So, I don't want to go out and buy another box of Rubric Marines that I may or may not use. So what I did instead, And I thought it would be funny, and I'm in the right kind of play group in my local store to do this. I'm going to build my own Rubric Marines out of the bits from old Rubric Marines. Except instead of being living Rubric Marines, they're going to be the Rubric Marines after they've been killed. And if you've seen Space Marine 2 or any of the videos, you know that when a Rubric Marine kills, all the dust that's left in the suit is released because that's what Rubric Marines are, dust sealed in armor. So, excuse me for 1/2 of a second. Somewhere over here on this shelf of things, I have the thing that I need. What-a! So, what I intend to do is using these bases, I'm going to build up some rocks out of this cork. And then I'm going to arrange the bits of my 5 Rubric Marines. There's enough bits here to make about 5. With flamers. And then I'm going to base them, paint these to look like rocks, paint these to look like the remains of Rubric Marines. And then I'm going to add this purple sand coming out of the bits of armor to make it look like the dust from the dead Rubric Marine. And I think it's going to be hilarious. I'm dubbing them lore-accurate Rubric Marines. And that's where we're going to start. And that's what most of these videos are going to be, is just me taking on whatever weird hobbying thing that I'm doing for the day. Not always going to be anything grand. Sometimes it might just be a bit of dry brushing. But that's what we're going to do. Now, you might have seen this in a couple places, but you can actually make some pretty decent looking rocks for bases using cork. Now, I have no idea how this is going to turn out. I've never done this before. We're doing it live. Well, pre-recorded from your perspective. Live for me. But I chose the self-adhesive corkboard. It should stick pretty good, I think. But just in case, for the other non-cork bits in between cork, I've got the glue that's so good the cover won't even come off. There we go. Gorilla Glue. So all you do to make some nice rocks for your bases is just take some cork. You can use your hobby knife if you want. Just rip off pieces. I can add a bit of well, isn't that just a kick in the pants? Okay, there we go. It's not. I was worried. I bought a dud. You just rip off pieces. And you place them on your board. Now you've got a rock. So the goal is that when you base this, you do it, or sorry, not base this, but when you base coat this, when you prime it, that you're going to be able to paint this over to look rock-like. That's the goal. We're going to see if that works out. But not before we fully commit, because who said we made good decisions on this channel? Just that we make decisions. The nice part about this is because you're just ripping cork, it's actually not too hard to make everything look a little random. And that's good. That's a strength for this. We don't want everything to look like it's nice and neatly organized and all planned out by our Lord and Savior Games Workshop. We want it to look messy. It's a rock. I do have some sort of plan, I think. I would advise it, because if you have no plan at all, you do still have to contend with how you're going to start to lay stuff on these bases, right? I'm trying to arrange these in such a way that I can use the rocks almost like props to stand up material. Oh no, we're going for a slide. Here we go. Bob Ross might call these happy little rocks. Happy little rocks indeed. I'm just gonna try to rip off a big chunk here. I want something square. And I see here I've got a crack in my cork, if you can see it. Don't be concerned about that, because have you never seen a rock with a crack? Oh my god, you have? This is brain demolishing facts, but did you know that sometimes, naturally, rocks have cracks? It happens, believe it or not. Despite what the government wants you to think, sometimes your rocks can, in fact, be cracked. I actually think this is going to look a little better if I arrange it this way. There's another way to do this that I've seen, where you basically build all your cork up all at once, and then you start shaving it. Think of like a shawarma, or if you're from Canada, like a donair. But I said I'm not a great hobbyer. I'm just some guy doing his best. Let's get this angled down a bit more here. There we go. So, not all of mine will be like that. Now, yeah. So, I might as well tell you while we're going here how this all started. I kind of touched on it there briefly. When I move places, I have this really bad habit of picking up whatever hobbies are popular where I am. So, when I moved to my previous province of residence, that hobby was magic. But when I moved down here, I couldn't find any magic play groups. So, I started pivoting, and I noticed that there were a few people playing Warhammer. Now, I'd never played it. I'd always heard the rumors and made fun of Warhammer players. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. But I started reading up on it, and as I read up, I grew quite such to like the Thousand Suns. And I'd love to tell you it was because of all the deep lore and the fantastic, alluring mysteries surrounding the faction. But in reality, I just liked Egyptian space wizards. I actually waffled quite a bit. I was very much in my head between A Thousand Suns and, somewhat ironically, Space Wolves. But ultimately, I made the right choice. I did not choose Space Wolves, thank God. Instead, I chose my Thousand Suns. We're just going to drop you right there. Nice little happy rock. Right there on the edge. I'm actually going to do this on a couple more of these. By a couple more, I mean the singular one over here. Yeah, so it was torn. Because, you know, space Vikings or Egyptian space wizards. But ultimately, I settled on Egyptian space wizards. I liked Egyptian space wizards. Who would not like an Egyptian space wizard? Name one bad thing an Egyptian space wizard has ever done. Well, I'll tell you one bad thing an Egyptian space wizard has done. And that was the invention of the Rubric Marine, because I got into this hobby hearing the myth and the rumors of the misery that is painting the Rubric. And I did not believe it. I said, there's no way it's actually that bad. This is a meme. This is funny. People are latching onto this for fun. Don't worry, I do that a lot. I said, people are latching onto this for fun, and it's not actually as bad as they make it sound. And let me tell you, from personal experience, it's exactly as bad as they make it sound. Rubric Marines are not fun to paint. For how much detail they have, they're a little bit small. And their pose, unless you're willing to leave the arms off them, which I find a lot of new hobbyists, myself included, don't like to partially assemble a model and paint it. A lot of times we don't have the setup to do it. So you're left painting these guys. Half of the bits are almost impossible to get to by the time you start and the time you're finished. The other half, well, is just awful. It's chaos trim. They are covered in all kinds of fancy gold filigree. And it is just... Oh, I haven't polished these. Well, you guys are going to get to see me stab myself a bunch more. Yeah, they're covered in all kinds of golden filigree. And it's just not nice. Not nice at all to paint. Especially when you're new. Sorry, there you gotta have a wonderful look at my crotch while I paint. It's just not nice to paint when you're new. Now, I'm actually not going to be too worried. A lot of times when you're cleaning these guys up, you want to be really careful. Not to damage them too much. I am not worried, because a lot of this stuff is going to be cut apart anyway to accommodate the way it's going to fit on this. I don't know why this guy has a sword, arm, and a gun, but he is going through it, it looks like. Oh, I know why now. Speaking of things we're going to have to do, we're actually going to just chop the end of this gun off right here. We're going to have to arrange this model in such a way that I'm going to be smart before I chop my finger off, because I'd love to say I've never cut my hands working on this stuff, but that would be a lie, and a slanderous lie at that. So yeah, we're going to have something like this going on. I know that I want his tome to kind of still be Toman. Something like that. Okay, so do a little bit of model gluing here really quick. I think tonight we might just get this first guy ready to go, and then when we come back I'm going to finish the other guys. So yeah, one thing you might notice is the lack of cuts. It's because this isn't a professional YouTube channel. I don't have an editor. And we're just doing. You'll see me hot knifing my glue. Maybe, maybe not. Normally I'd probably do what most of the big YouTubers do and get the Tamiya, but my local game store sells GW. So I like to support them. So we're going to use some GW. A little GW never hurt anybody, I don't think. It might have. I can't attest to what GW has and has not done that's been evil in the past. Do I want to use this head? I feel like there's some better heads here for this guy. This is our aspiring sorcerer, because every Rubric Marine band needs an aspiring sorcerer. I don't know what they're aspiring to as a Rubric Marine, but my god, they're aspiring to something. And good for them on aiming high. And you know what? Like I said, I'm not too picky about how I'm going to take these off, because these guys are dead. And what you might see me doing, I'm actually going to ditch the cape. I was hoping to incorporate the cape, but I don't think it's quite going to work out on the base. Alright. So, you didn't see that. So, what we're going to do here now is figure out how we're going to get all this on the base together. Again, the goal is to create the effect of a dead Rubric Marine. Right, that's what we want. What I might end up doing let's get the first bit placed first. Let's get his torso down. I think I want his torso lying something like that. Normally you'd use plastic glue. But I don't know if you know this. Plastic glue doesn't really stick to cork. So we're going to use our good old friend super glue. And then what we're actually going to do is we're going to trim off that end right there. He's lost that. That's gone. We're going to use our good old friend super glue. Now, you know how they tell you to hollow out your gun barrels? We're going to do the same thing, except we're going to hollow out our Rubric Marine's neck. So I don't quite know how I want this guy to lie yet. quite know exactly how I want this guy to lay. If you hear licking in the background, it's my dog. Yes, you, I'm talking about you. He's very cute, and one day he might even make it into a video by being so dang cute. Now, we don't need a big hollow. We're not boring out a gun barrel. We're just trying to make it look like there might be something, an empty socket behind here. I think that's about where I want it to go. Drop down. Another hit of that super glue. And down he goes. Boom. 2 pieces on. Now, I'm definitely going to have to fix this camera so that I can zoom in a bit and adjust. But if you can see what we've got here is our head and our body glued on to the rock. Now, we got to figure out how we're going to get the rest of this on. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put the gun like that. This is going to be a kind of busy base. Your aspiring sorcerer has a lot going on. Maybe the next thing I should hit is this tome. I know I want it to look like the tome is still magically alive. So I'm thinking something like this for the effect for the tome, where it's standing up, kind of supported by that, right? I'm thinking that's the way to go. Now this might be a scenario where, again, a bigger YouTuber, or a big YouTuber, I shouldn't say bigger, like I am some size, a sizable YouTuber, and a sizable person who's more into the hobbying side, may use something like green stuff. Unfortunately, I am none of those things. And I don't own green stuff, and I'm not particularly interested in learning to work with green stuff. So we're working with what we got. So we have our aspiring sorcerer now. His tome is now being held aloft. I think that should work. Wait a little bit for that glue to dry. We'll come back in a bit here when it's dry. Okay, that didn't take too much longer. Whoop, there we go. Next up, this is our aspiring sorcerer. So we need his arm and staff here. I'm thinking I kind of want to do something like this. thinking this is the best way to go. But I'm not sure. I'm figuring this out live too, guys. What I may actually do this hurts because this is my last staff. But I think this is what I want to do. Is to break that so that I can position his other arm something like this. Memphis, do you mind, my boy? He does mind. You can tell from his face that he does in fact mind. So, I know this looks pretty busy right now, which is one thing I'm not a fan of. But you know, I think that's going to work. Again, this guy is dead. He was defeated in battle. So, having a broken staff kind of works. You know what, though? There is another option. We might change this guy later in the future. I'm actually going to stick the other half of the staff up like that. Because you don't know this yet, but I'm going to base this whole thing in some sand. Not the dirt cheap sand, pardon the pun, but some Vallejo sand paste. And that should make it look like the staff is sticking out of the sand, which is what the plan for the gun is. Now, I'm learning something as I'm working on this guy, and this is kind of part of this, right? I'm doing this real time with you guys, so I'm discovering just as much about this as I go as you guys are watching. So some of this is changing real time. Originally, the plan was for his gun to go something like this, which I might still do. Because while this guy is an aspiring sorcerer, he is also still a regular Rubric Marine. So what I might actually do is I might take away that. Some light trimming here. I hope he doesn't ruin everything else as I trim. There we go. Oh my god, my hand stuck to it. We're part of it now. We are Rubric Marine. that's what we're going to do. This gun, I think, would have looked a bit too busy with everything else going on. But I think like that, and then we're going to... Whoop. Oh, let me stick this guy down again. Some super glue, it's super gluey. The only thing I'm going to say is that this is going to be an absolute nightmare to paint. But luckily, I don't think I'm going to be too concerned about it. So yeah, we'll do something like that. You can see here. Now we've got our bits assembled on our rock. Chest, head, his staff's broken, sticking out of the sand. What's left of his flamer will be sticking out of the sand. His book's trying to make a run for it. And we have the remains of a Rubric Marine. So, we do have 4 more bases to do like this. Oh hey, look at that, a piece is coming off. Oh wow, I fixed it. We do have 4 more of these to do. I'm not going to do them all right now. This, like I said, is just a de-stressor hobby for me. I have a concept now. For the rest of these guys, I know actually now that what I thought I didn't have enough bits for each one, I think I actually have more than enough. So, probably going to come up with a rough plan for each base. And then, when we come back next time, I'll have them all primed. And we'll start with the painting and how we're going to make these rocks rock. Alright, thank you, and I hope you did enjoy this, at least somewhat. I know, like I said, the camera quality isn't great. We're working on it. It's probably not something I'm going to invest in the immediate future, but we make do here. So, thank you. Have a great day. Stay safe. Don't do drugs, even the fun drugs.